Okay, so now that we've talked about incorporating symbols into your mandala, the next step is, what do I do with all these extra spaces out here? And the answer is you fill it with detailed pattern. And when I say detailed, I do mean I want to see some good quality detail. So let's take a look at some examples. So right here, we've got some examples, if they'll pull up, of some mandala drawings, and some of these might be a little bit on the small side. These are just pulled from the internet, but you can see that whenever you see a mandala, if you just type in mandala in Google, let's see, mandala. Let's see what kind of images pop up right off the bat. What you'll see is some consistent themes of lots of detail, lots of pattern, and the patterns are intricate, meaning it's not just stripes or polka dots. It's layered patterns with a high level of detail. So while I might not be expecting quite this much detail, I do expect you to fill your mandala with as much detail as you can within the time given. So if we go back to our examples here, these are just examples of mandalas that I found online. You can use Zentangle inspired ideas. I would like to see some symmetry, so whatever you do on one side, maybe try to repeat something similar that can balance it out on the other side, or exactly the same. You can adjust your grid to change a little bit. Now these are not, these mandalas do not have the 9 symbol requirement necessarily. These are assorted examples from online. But you'll see that they're filled with images. So when you are filling your pattern with your mandala with all sorts of images, you want to just make sure that you're using all of the spaces and that you are maybe using your grid in an interesting way. You can add or delete some of the grid lines. You could adjust it a little bit. Like if you wanted to make some kind of shape like this, you could create that within your grid pattern. If you wanted to adjust the outside edges, you could do that. As long as you are filling with pattern all of the spaces in between. So think about patterns that you might like that you could add into those spaces. How could you add them into the spaces given? How could you use some nice darks and lights and have some contrast? How could you create rich textured surfaces? That's going to be your job to do. And then when you are finishing your mandala, you can use any combination of coloring pencil, Sharpie, watercolor that you would like, but the coloring is going to need to be high quality. With coloring pencils, my requirements are that you press down hard, that you have full rich color. I went over this at the beginning of our class. That you try blending. But I don't want to see pale light colors. I want to see that you have pressed down hard, you're blending, you're using your white coloring pencil. And if you need to review that, you can go back to the beginning of the semester or the beginning of our Art 1 class and review our media exploration, where I did post videos on how to properly use coloring pencils. And that is my requirement. I require good quality coloring. I don't want to see grainy texture. I want to see solid coloring. I want to see blending and shading. You can use watercolor and Sharpie, but then I would expect to see some really good level of detail with whatever media you finish it with. And these are just all sorts of examples that I have found online. So you're finishing any spaces left over with high levels of highly detailed patterns. You're keeping that symmetrical look, and you're making sure to use your media in such a way that it's really high quality finished job. All right, so adding pattern, finishing up with finishing media, and that's how we're going to finish our mandala.